All right. So today's webinar is events. So we're going to be talking about the events module, how to create events, how to manage events, how to register people for events, as well as a variety of additional configurations. Now, events is a particularly big piece. There will be some parts of it that we will skim, and some parts that we will effectively skip. So we won't be covering every detail of the events module, but we will hit all the major pieces that most people will need. So, but there won't be much left out, just some tiny pieces here and there. So let's go ahead and get started. To start off, well, where do we find our events? So if we go to the main menu, we will find events under, well, events. So this is where we can see our events and create events. We can also create events under create event. And there is an option here called quick ticketing. It is an additional option for selling tickets, usually at the door of an event. And so if we have time at the end, we will go through it. But let's start by going to the event list. Now the event list will display your events. Let's see, let's wait for it to catch up. There we go. The recording is slowing me down. Under the active list, the inactive list, or the draft list. And we'll talk about what causes something to go under draft. Inactive list, though, is usually your old events, stuff that you're not working on anymore, or maybe something you abandoned. Active is while you're currently running events. We can edit an event and a few other options which we'll actually use later. Clicking on it is the same as going to manage. So let's start by actually creating a new event. Oh, one other thing. There's a search option up here. So sometimes when you're on your inactive event list, if you're looking for a particular event, maybe especially something maybe rather old, maybe a couple of years out, you'll probably want to use the search option here. So let's go ahead and add an event. So what is an event? Well, an event is actually a pretty broad category of things. Most people, when they think events, they think like concerts or things like that, maybe performances or galas. But an event can basically be any situation where you have people showing up at a place at a fixed time and you want to keep track of them. Or even if you don't want to keep track of them, you don't have to. But basically, it's people going to a place at a time for a thing. Very technical definition that. So this can include classes, workshops, fundraisers, conferences, races, anything like that. So, it's we got a lot of options there. So keep your mind open when you're thinking about an event. Some people have, kind of put a very narrow restriction on it, but it can be quite broad. So let's start with this screen. One thing I do want to mention is we have options to put your events online. So currently there's the public pages feature. Soon there's going to be the more web feature. There's also WordPress plugins, and who knows what'll come in the future. So right now I'm not going to focus on what about the online portion of it, but I will point out as we go a few pieces that will be important on the public site, as it were, as it's called, if you're using that option. Okay. So to start off, active versus inactive. Usually use this later on if you're editing an event, not for a new one. And there's an option to make, and as you saw, events, well, you didn't really see it, but events will go inactive automatically once they're over. Event title. This is the name of your event, so it should be nice and clear. If on the public site, this should let people know what it is. This is what's going to show up in searches and reports. So I often recommend if it's something you do every year, make sure to put the year in it as well. So we can call this, let's see, we need an event name. I need an event name. So let's do it a class. Why not? I haven't done a class in a little while. So we're going to do a class on art because we're an arts organization. So this is the children's art with Taylor. Why not? So in this case, we don't need to put a year on it since it's not a yearly event. If this was our annual fundraiser, we probably would want to. So children's art with Taylor. Venue is where is this going to happen. Now I have a bunch of venues I previously created. You can create a new one. And actually, if you go to configurations down to the event section, you'll actually find that your venues that you've created can be managed there between events or outside of the actual event screen. So let's just go ahead and use one. Let's use the Kavanaugh Center. That's actually in Petaluma, not in Roanoke Park, but we'll run with it. And if I was to edit it, we'd see that I can change the various details. And we have a map, and that map is shown online. We also have the concept of host. Host is usually a third party that's working with you on this event. So for example, if this class was actually being put on by the City of Roanoke Park, or in conjunction with the City of Roanoke Park, which is where we live, where we are, I might state that Roanoke Park is the host, or in this case, SoCo Nexus, the building and we're in. It might be the host because maybe we're coordinating with them. Not every event is going to have a host. Very few actually do, but I do see this used a lot by people for just putting additional, maybe the major sponsor, things like that. But officially, it's just for a partner organization. And then description, this is your blurb that goes on the website. So this basically is the page. So we're not going to use it right now. Basic editor, everything here, if you've worked a word processor, it's going to be familiar to you. So I'm not going to go over all those options, but this is probably where you want to put your event details and what have you. So if there's no questions about this page, I'll go ahead and move on to the next one and using save and proceed. If there's questions, I can go back. And then we have the schedule setting. So this is when the event is. This has nothing to do with when tickets go on sale. That's our next step. So just want to be clear on that one. This is about when will the event be. So our first option is a single event with a start date and an end date. So if it's a one-day event, these are the same. If it's maybe a two-day event, so like a conference maybe, two-day conference, it might be 2 different days. So let's go ahead and put this in the future. Let's just bump forward 1 month and put this on July 16th, which is actually which has no special, it's just a date. And it's going to be from, let's do it in the afternoon, 1 p.m. till, and here's a cool trick, 3. And I don't actually have to do the next step. So a little trick there for you all. If you want to hide either of these numbers, these times from the public site, you can do that. Normally people hide the end date for things where, kind of ends when it ends. So that's for a single event. You go just for a day or 2 days and you just sign up the once. Now, what about for things like classes and workshops where you might be going to multiple sessions of it? So maybe you sign up once and go to multiple sessions of it, or each session is held separately. So maybe this actually represents a month-long series of classes. Well, for that we have, yes, this event repeats, set it to green, and either a single event with multiple dates, you pay once, go multiple times. So this is often classes, or a repeating event. This is a series of different events, each one with their own registration and capacity and all that fun stuff. So if you're doing a rendition of Pirates of Penzance, because that's awesome, you don't pay once and go to multiple sessions of it and see it over and over and over again. Each performance is its own thing. You sign up separately. So if you want to go twice to it, because who wouldn't want to, you could, be a repeating event and sign up for each separately. So that's the difference between the two of these. One event, multiple dates. So you sign up once and go to a series. So you might use this for a class, for example, or a repeating event for things like performances of the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and do single event with multiple dates. This is a class. You sign up once, and it can be daily, every day until some date. It can be weekly, which is probably one of the more common ones. So every week, every 2 weeks, for every alternating on a certain day of the week, or monthly on certain days of the month, or maybe like the second Tuesday of the month, or other. And this is for erratic schedules. So it's basically what we have up here, but this means I could do 2 sessions in the same day. I could do a session here, what is it, a Saturday, and maybe skip a week, and then do another Saturday, then skip a week and do a Thursday. So it's kind of moving around. It's not consistent. So there's no good, nice, fixed pattern. So let's go ahead and use weekly, every week on Saturday up until so July, August, and let's use the last day in August, last Saturday. That's what I was going for. So now what we've basically told the system is, starting with a session on the 16th, we will have a session every week on Saturday until the 27th of August. Repeating event would have basically said the same thing, but we would have had each Saturday signed up for separately. So any questions about this screen? Any questions about repeating events? Groovy. All right, so save and proceed. We now have registration types. So what is a registration type? Also known as ticket types. This is what people are signing up for. Now, it doesn't have to be paid. It could be free. So this could be a free class, but we need people to sign up ahead of time so that we know how many seats. Maybe you have capacities on it. We'll talk about that in a second. Or it could be paid. So we could go ahead and say, okay, well, for this class, it costs you money. So we have, child under 5, and that maybe has a price of $15. But maybe if you're a member, so this ties into the membership module, if you happen to be a member and have an active membership, maybe it's only $12. You get $3 off. So that's one ticket. We could also maybe make a child over 5, in which case our price is maybe 20. And there's once again a $3 discount. Woo, that's not a discount. There we go. A $3 discount if you happen to have an active membership. So we can also do free tickets. So maybe as an organization we do provide money. We sometimes will provide tickets, free admittance to classes for people who have maybe a certain type of membership or what have you. So maybe we have what's called maybe a child artist membership, and if you have this membership, you're basically been given some sort of scholarship and you get free access to all of our classes. Well, we can do that, and we'll show the technicals of how we do that. But first, we need to still make that free ticket type. So child scholar, and it's going to be free. Did I spell that right? I think I spelled that right. Yeah, I spelled that right, I think. My spell check's not yelling at me. So we have our 3 ticket types. Well, one thing we need to make sure is how many can we have? So we can set capacity on the entire event or per ticket type, but not both. So I can say we can take a total of 10 children in this class, and the capacity goes away. Or, excuse me, I could set it by ticket type. So if you were doing a concert and you had 15 VIP tickets and maybe 85 regular tickets, you could do the capacity per ticket. So let's go ahead and do that here, 10. Now this capacity for a repeating event has a little bit of a slight quirk in it, and it'll make sense. If it's a single event with multiple dates, the capacity is total. I can't at any given point have more than 10 people, so that's the entire event. If I have a repeating event where each session is separate, this 10 is per session. So I could have 10 people in session 1, 9 people in session 2, and so on. And each one will be counted against only itself. Okay. So how do we handle some of these ticket types? Well, let's do one more ticket type. Excuse me. Let's do a homeschool group. Homeschool group. So if you get, is that, I thought homeschool is one word. Let's go with it. Let's say if you can get 5 children together, members or non-members, then you get maybe a discount. So the normal price for children over 5 is 20. 5 times 2 is, what is that, 100? No. Yes, 100. So maybe we actually give a bigger discount if you can actually get a group of 5 together. So let's say the price here is, that's a good discount. Let's say you get a $15 discount. So this is actually going to represent a group of children. So now we've got a couple of different examples together, but the member price is the same. So how do we handle each of these scenarios? Well, there's a settings option, and these settings options will give us some additional things we can do with. So let's start with our homeschool group setting, and for this one, we have an option called group size, and we can set the group size to 5. So this group size basically says this ticket actually represents 5 children. So we also have some other settings here. So we also have the ability to say, when do the tickets go on sale? Ooh, I always do that. When do the tickets go on sale? So we have starts 30 days before and ends the day of. So maybe for a homeschool group, we allow sign up 60 days before, but we end it 10 days before, as that takes a bit more coordination. Other people can sign up that day. So this is how you can also do early bird registrations. So I could have one ticket type that's 60 to 30 and maybe another one that's 30 to 0. And who is it available to? Well, we don't need that for a homeschool group. So let's close that out. But we did talk about this child scholar ticket type and how it was only available to people with a certain type of membership. Well, that was our next option here. It's available to everybody or members only, and which membership. So maybe it is only available to the artist membership. So if a child has the artist membership, they can purchase it. If we only wanted this to be purchasable offline, then we can use the do not display on public site option, which will hide it from the website. So let's go ahead and do that. Here we don't use group size. We might allow cancellations, certain days before, in which case they could cancel online, but we're not using the online option. We could put some registration details for reference. And we also have the ability to say, if you're going to buy a ticket, you have to buy a minimum of this, but no more than that. Don't see this used very often. And there's a last option of add this to your frequently used ticket types. If your organization has most of their events the same, like 90%, and they use the same ticket types, this is a great option. It will basically make it so that every time you create an event, this ticket, as configured here, will be added in automatically. However, if it's not most of your events, this can actually get in your way. As each time you create an event, you may have multiple tickets you don't need, and if most of your time you don't need them, you're deleting them, it's creating more work for you than it's really saving. These can be, if you've gone ahead and used it by accident, or just need to maintain what ones you have, under configurations events, just like we saw host and venue, we can maintain them there. So that's our child scholar, member only, artist, and we're not showing it on the public site. These two, we don't need to do anything fancy with. There's one more setting, actually, I should cover. I almost forgot. It's what do we do with fees? So we didn't see it with free, but there are certain fees that can be encountered with tickets, specifically online. So for example, credit card fees. And we take, at this time, $1 per ticket. So what do you want to do with those fees? Well, absorb means you pay them as an organization. Out of that $20, you pay $1 to us, and then the credit card company gets their percentage. You could pass them on. That basically says that we're basically going to increase the cost of the ticket by a little bit to help cover those costs, so that when all costs are taken into account, you as an organization get the $20. So we add $1 to the price, becoming 21, and then we add in a little bit more to cover the price of credit card fees. And Split will kind of distribute the cost between you and the person. And you can do these by ticket. So, any questions about tickets? A lot of options on this page, so I want to see if there's any questions. Okay, so let's keep it moving. Save and proceed, our last step. First off, is it displayed on the public site? So there is an option for private. And if so, when will it go online? We can automatically unpublish the event upon its completion, which is the default. We can link it to a program. So we could link it to the Art for Kids program. Any revenue from this event will go back into the Art for Kids program. We can link it to a chart of account and an account class. So this goes into the financials module we're not going to talk about today. And then tags. This lets you search for events online. These tags are created and maintained under configurations, events, search tags. And I could, for example, see, I don't have any tags that apply. I need to go clean up my tags. But maybe I have tags for like classes versus performances. And then last but not least, we hit save. Any questions? We've now completed an event. Okay, last thing I want to say is if you don't hit this final save, we have still saved the event up to this point, but it is at that time a draft event, meaning we're working on it but haven't completed it. The moment I hit save, unless I set it to inactive in step 1, which I don't know what I normally won't do, it will go into my active event list. So that's how things become draft. Now, upon saving, what it's going to take me to is the event dashboard. So this is the same dashboard that you get when you click on the event's name in the event list, and this just gives us some basic, statistics, a bit of a lowdown on the event. And we're going to talk about a couple of pieces that will affect this. So from here, we're going to now start running through various configuration options for an event. So like I said earlier, we're going to skip some things. Some things we're just going to kind of more of a this is what it is and move on. So do bear with me on some of those. So to start off, we're going to come back to Manage Attendees, Configure Registration Form. So what is this? When you register, there's there's two people involved. And they may be the same person. There's the registrant, which is the person who pays. You will know their information because you have to. You have to know who paid. Um, so when you register on the back end, when they pay online, you will know their name, hopefully their email, and get their payment details. So that's the registrant, the person who requested or paid for the tickets. There is then also someone known as the attendee. These are the people actually going. Now often the registrant will be the attendee. In our example, they wouldn't be. They'd actually be a child of the attendee, most likely, or grandchild, or some sort of relationship is involved there. So we don't, by default, ask who the attendee is so that you can keep things moving. But you can if you want to, and that's what this configure registration form does. Another way to think about it is it's basically your attendee details form. So if you want to know who the attendees are, we go ahead and build a form here. So we go to add field, well, name, most basic details, who's the attendee. And for depending on your duplicate prevention settings, you'll probably want to either put an email or address or both. Let's put email address, or maybe attendee's relationship with the registrant. Now, if you're using one of our public site implementations, one of the things, although it's now technically optional, is you can require that they be logged in. If they are logged in, having created this relationship for one of their children in the past, because for example, children don't know when I have emails under 5. If we don't have that email, we could be creating duplicates. When you do require that they log in, we will know who their children are based on the relationships in their contact record, which this will create, by the way, and that'll prevent duplicates. So something to keep in mind. Sometimes comes up if you are using one of our public site implementations and you have turned off the requirement for login for events, you will possibly end up with a lot of duplicates, especially if you're a child-based organization. You work with children a lot who go to your events. So something to keep in mind. But otherwise, create your form. We have the option to add in custom fields. So these fields basically let you ask custom questions, anything you want. So multiple choice, paragraph text, which basically big chunk of text, drop down, and so on, options and radio buttons. And these are stored against the event and not available in reporting, but you can export them, and I'll show you where you can do that. Alternatively, you can add a custom data set, and as we covered in other webinars, custom data sets are ways to extend the system and create sets of fields that you can use in various places and are saved against a contact record and thus available in the reporting module. So, reportable, not reportable. But these can be configured ad hoc for an event, while these have to be configured under configurations. So, any questions about registration forms? Go ahead and save this one. Okay. If you do have a form that you've created, you can delete the form with the delete button and reverts back to not knowing who the attendee is. Okay. Waitlist settings, we're going to move through this kind of quickly. Enable, what this basically lets you do is say, when all my tickets are sold out, trigger the waitlist. People will start getting this message when they go to register. They'll get added to the waitlist, which we'll see a little bit later on. And I can take up to 12 people on my, well, this is a small event, so up to 5 people on the waitlist. When I send them the email to register, which is this basically over here, they have 24 hours to respond, or 1 day. And then I can put my various details over here. I think do I have to? Yes, I do have to put a release message. Make sure that you, so like informal citation, add, click here to register, and then registration URL, add. Actually, this will give you a raw URL. So what you might want to do, copy, and then make it a link. And use the other option. And that'll actually become a clickable link. That is also the URL. So quick trick there, save. So this will enable your waitlist. Waitlist, once triggered, basically means that you will have to send them an email to allow them to register via that email or register them on the back end. If you want to reopen up the event, even if you've got more cancellations and people on your waitlist, you will have to disable the waitlist. So kind of a quick overview. We'll see the waitlist page in a little bit, but any questions about enabling a waitlist? I realized that was a bit quick. Okay, next step is image gallery. This is just a place where you can put images and they will be displayed on the public site in kind of a slider. So just drop them in here, nothing too fancy. Sponsors is a place to display your sponsors. So sponsorships themselves are a donation. So you would record them under some sort of fund like donation, event sponsors or something like that. But to actually show your donor, your sponsor for an event on the website, you put their name, URL, logo, and you can categorize them. Not many people do that. And then hit add. That's a line item config. So this is for display purposes only. It will not record the donation. On that topic, strongly suggested against creating your sponsorship as ticket types. What I advise, and it's a different webinar, but create a donation page for sponsors to go to make their donation, and then you can always make a free ticket type that's not displayed on the public site that you can then manually assign to them after the fact if they do get free tickets. But sponsorship are a form of donation, so cannot appropriately be recorded as a ticket type, as those would not generate a donation acknowledgement. Little word of warning there. Other items. These are really cool. These are, your merchandise, your swag, stuff like that. So for our event, let me move that one. If I wanted to give the option for the student to purchase their art supplies via us, so otherwise they'd have to bring their own. What we could do is go add. We could make the item type. Let's see, this was painting. Was this just art? Children's art. So art supplies, whatever those entail, and it's $5 for paints and crayons and things like that. Each, whatever, and then description of what you get, and you can put some pictures of the, you can put a picture of the items and save. And what this allows you to do is either individually, so it's almost kind of like a point of sale, a little bit like that in that way, or as someone's registering, they can purchase these other items. So these are for, this is where you can do things like class materials, wine glasses, hats, t-shirts, things of that nature. Be careful with things like raffle tickets. So once again, raffle tickets are not donations. If anyone remembers that webinar, they're not donations, they are gaming proceeds and cannot be recorded against a fund. Couple options exist for that. If your state or municipality, whatever laws apply to you, allow you to put raffle tickets on a website, you can add them here under other items and allow people to purchase. Anything you put under other items will be displayed on the public site. So be aware of that. Your local gaming ordinances will apply. But this is a good place for raffle tickets if you're allowed to. Otherwise, custom dataset invoice items, and they'd only be allowable to be sold offline. That is covered in a different webinar. So merchandise, occasionally raffle tickets when legal in your area, and so on. Any questions about other items? It's actually a fairly heavily used piece, so I want to make sure everybody is good with it. All right, nice. All right, customized ticket. So when someone registers online, they will get a ticket. Well, they also get an invoice. They get an invoice, basically a receipt saying you paid, but they also get a copy of their ticket, and you can email these out. And this is actually what someone can bring to the door to say, yeah, I paid. You can start with a template. I kind of like the blue one personally. Banner, so banner content, it's just some text that goes at the top. Banner image goes above that. Note goes under the banner content. Placeholders, all the various bits and pieces you see here. And then more is for additional information at the bottom, and documents. I don't see that used very often. That's where you can put things like parking instructions. And then save. So I use this, for example, to send you webinar credentials. So when you get your credentials, in addition to being in the content, which we'll talk about how I do that, I also attach the ticket, which also has the credentials, and you should be getting that ticket when you register. So that's your tickets. Sometimes people do ask, is this barcode usable? It is, and I'll show you where later on. But this barcode is usable, and I'll give you more details about the scanner when we hit that spot. So any questions about customizing your tickets? And this is per event. Okay, groovy. Invites. Invites allow you to send an email to people inviting them to your event. This includes if the event is not published. So if you have an implementation but you're not publishing the event, basically kept it private in step 4, you can send an invite, and via that invite people can still register. It's really nifty. So you could have an event that was only for certain people, and only as long as those people have that email can they register. So let's run through this process. It's fairly simple. Create invite. We can say, yeah, let's track when someone's not going to be attending. So our button actually becomes a yes, no. Sender name, Monte Cristo Arts Center. Sender email, support@Flundly, because I like using a real one, .com. And, come to our art class. And then we pick a template. Now, I'm not going to go through the idiosyncrasy of creating templates. Those are covered in other webinars. You can create your own. You can edit existing. The R as any template stored under Manage Templates under Communication. And you select your template. If we preview it, we'll see just kind of a quick what's this look like. Attend event button will actually place a button there. Because I did the track not attending, it'll actually be a yes/no buttons. But that'll basically be the invite with its content. And I always suggest send yourself a test email. This test email will not be live, however, be aware. Your placeholders won't actually be filled in, and the link, the button will be present, doesn't actually allow you to register. So it's just to make sure it looks good. And then we do save and next. Anyone who's used like the newsletter functionality, this flow is actually about the same. So choose contact allows us to add somebody individually, or I can run an advanced search. So I can say, give me everybody, in the city is, so this is an exact match, Rohnert Park. And then add to list, and anyone who lives in that city will be added, which apparently is about 12 people. Actually 13, because it should include me. So just add your people that way. You can run multiple searches and keep adding. Then we go next, send now, send on a certain date. Let's go ahead and send now, save. It will be set to scheduled. When the scheduler picks it up, usually within a couple minutes, it'll be set to processing. Once completed, it will be sent, and you will get statistics. So, any questions on invites? Very powerful piece. So, and want to make sure everybody cool with it. Okay, event documents. Upload documents for your reference. Track expenses. Not going to go through the details on this, but in the financials module and configurations, financials, you can create expense groups, which could be things, actually, might as well go through it. We have a few extra minutes. Could be things like catering. Okay, that's not a good example. Venue. And this is where we can track venue expenses. And in our expense group, we could then have the individual items for the things that would be part of a venue. And we have total cost, which is a bulk cost. We have per piece, which is basically per person. So if we supplied the art supplies and it cost us $5 a person to give them these, then that would be an option. We can also do percentage, which not very often used, but it's a percentage of the income of the event. These expenses, when tracked, will show against the dashboard for the event and can be pulled up in reports. So not going to go into how to create the expense groups. I cover that in the financials webinar, which I will have again next month. You can review then how to create them, but this is where you can implement them. And then lastly, yes, we will leave the page, notifications. Flow-wise, this is effectively the same as invite, so I'm not going to go through it. But this is basically what I use to send my notifications to people who are already signed up. So instead of being from the entire database, your selection list is only either from all registrants, all attendees, or selected attendees, selected registrants, and then you get to pick who you're sending it to. I use this to send out my webinar credentials before the webinar. So when you got that email today, this is the feature I used to do that. I basically went to create notifications, grabbed my template, said attach ticket. Here, I'll show you that page. Attach ticket, put in my sender information, template, selected y'all as recipients, and then said send now. So that, like I said, the flow basically is the same as invites, but this is sent to people actually registered and not used to get someone to sign up. Any questions about any of these pieces before we actually go into the managing of the event in the last 20 minutes? Okay, so manage attendees. We have a couple of lists here. We have registrants. These are the people who are registered, so we'll see this in a few minutes. We'll see the person who registered and their tickets. Attendees are just the people going. If we don't know, it'll say guest. Other items purchased will show us the purchase of other items. Check-in attendees is used for being at the door and will let you say who actually showed up. This is, by the way, where we can do scan ticket. So scan ticket, and so the scanner you will need for this is a USB scanner that supports code 128. So it's like the scanner out there. You know, it's all over the place. I do have an FAQ in the event section for be reminded. But it's just code 128. It's just a generic standard among scanners, and as far as I could tell, just about every USB scanner I could find will support it. So just find the one that is the right cost for you. They're not too pricey. I think I saw some as low as 20 bucks. Don't quote me on that, but that's all you need. So you'll plug it in, scan your ticket, and it will mark the person as checked in, and there you go. So this is, want to make sure people knew about that. Otherwise, you can manually just check people in, and then waitlist. You may have saw it there very briefly. There is a send registration request button. So what you would do is you'd select your people. I don't have any people on my wait list to show, and then send them that link, and it will send them effectively an invite, private invite, just for them, where they can register. So let's go ahead and do a registration and a cancellation. So as a reminder, I always like this reminder, every transaction in the system creates an invoice. So basically what we're doing is we're shortcutting into the invoice system from this screen. But like any transaction, you can operate from invoices entirely. So we're going to create an invoice, add an event ticket to it, and then pay it off. By the way, if an invoice, another way to think about it is really just a receipt. Now with events, sometimes people do let people not pay right away, so in which case it is the full invoice. So new registration. Now a cool shortcut here is by doing it from this page, I'm not going to need to select the event after I create my invoice. It's going to know. Otherwise, if I had gone to say, quick add, create invoice, it wouldn't already know that. So our event attendee is going to be Terry, whom if you haven't met is new with our team. And invoice date, we'll just do today. Invoice number, that's fine, create. And it took us straight into the event, otherwise we would have selected it. We're going to register today. Why do we have this field? So you may recall for our event, we set on our ticket types when the ticket's on sale, 30 days before to the day of, except for that one that was 60 to 10. If this registration date is outside that 30 to 10 or 30 to 0, our status here would actually be ended, and I could not register with that ticket. So for example, if you're registering someone after the fact, after the event is over, you will need to backdate this into the date range that would have been applicable for that ticket type. So keep that in mind. If you're ever having a case where you don't see your tickets online, chances are your ticket came to an end because the default is the 30 to 0. And if you're creating an event farther out than 30, well, basically the ticket hasn't started yet. So registration type, we'll just do today. We can apply processing fees for back-end registration. Otherwise, let's go ahead and let's do a homeschool group. So this is an example where buying one ticket is actually 5 people. So this is actually 5 seats. And then I could add on other things. This is also where I can, as we saw or mentioned earlier, can put on our other items. So let's put on 5 art supply other items to our registration and then hit save. Because we set up a registration form, it is going to now ask me for the details for each and every one of those children. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and leave that all blank. I could just do save and next to get to the end, but I'm a lazy man, and actually I can basically just, I found I can just ignore this field, and I could just click other items, for example, which is invoice other items separate from our event other items, and my item is still in my cart. Another thing you can do from events, by the way, is, so I mentioned this earlier, you can do the registrations from here. This is also where we can add our other items. So I could add my art supplies from here and grab 5 if I wanted to, save, and it adds it as an invoice item. So other items get their own invoice item. Not to be confused with the other items that are custom dataset invoice items, which is the other way you can do raffle tickets. So ignoring that, our event is now on there, our other items are on there, and now we can have an amount. Now we have an amount due that we need to pay off. As with any invoice, receive payment if they've paid, and go ahead and put your payment information. So let's just say it's a check. I should always put a reference number, which is our check number, receive payment. So that was an example of one way we can register people. Alternatively, I could always go, create invoice, because I need one more example to run with. Let's put it under my name, create, and in this case, we didn't go through the event, so we do need to go here, registration, do it for today. I apparently have some free tickets, ignore that as part of membership, and I have a child under 5. I'm not going to use any of my free tickets. 1, save. Ooh, registration type selected. Didn't I select one? I must not have clicked. Save. So look into that. All right, well, let's just do it without the other item. So, and then in this case, I actually will say who the child is. It's my son, and relationship, child. Save. Okay, so we have my registration and all that stuff, and then just go ahead and receive payment. So, and we'll see these when we get back to our event. So let's give it a moment. Let's go ahead and finish this out, receive payment. I have a lot of other stuff I owe money on, but we'll ignore that. And we're all done. So now if I use breadcrumbs, let's go back to the event. Go to the event list. Someone else must be working on my system. So it's grabbing their breadcrumbs and not mine. We use a single support login. So, all right, so if I go back to events, now we actually see our children's art now has 6 people registered, so a group of 5 plus 1. And if I go to manage, or I could have clicked on the name, our dashboard will have updated and have the details. And so here are everything that we brought in. And if I go to manage attendees now, under registrations, I see my registration with my son, and I see Terry Bruce with her 5 guests. So 4 guests? 5 guests. I can edit individual tickets, so I could change. I could actually say who these individual people are, or I could cancel. And we're actually going to do that one here. So what we could do here is Terry decided, you know what, I actually don't have kids. I'm going to cancel my entire registration because it doesn't make any sense. So we can either cancel individual tickets. Well, actually not on this kind. We could over here for individual tickets, but since she's a group, all we can do is cancel the entire registration, cancel. We can apply a cancellation fee. So we're going to keep $5, Terry, because we have to cover our admin fees. We're going to cancel it today. And the remaining money, the remaining $80, we can either credit to her account or we can issue a refund, and we tell the system how you issued the refund. So the system won't actually process the money back, just so you know. Even if you have a payment gateway set up, we cannot tell that gateway to put money back. So what you would have to do is either issue a check through your accounting department or go into your payment gateway and issue a partial refund. But let's go ahead and you paid by check. We return it by check. This is our check number, description, date we issued it, all that, cancel registration. The finances will balance. It will show as canceled. We will show that we did keep $5. And on our dashboard, we actually see that $5 as cancellation fees. But we still have Eric here registered and his son specifically. So any questions about registering or canceling attendees? Excuse me, I guess, okay, registrations for an event. Okay, so now under attendees, we do see all those cancellations. And we see Arjun is still good to go. We can export this page, in which case those questions, those custom fields you may have created are present. Other items, since we did have Terry purchase some art supplies, here they are. Those are not actually part of the registration, so we would have to handle these separately. So to handle these, we'd actually handle this from the invoice. So we might want to handle this differently, but we'll ignore that for the time being. Oh, what did I do? I hit the wrong back button. There we go. And we don't have anybody on our wait list, so that example didn't work. But check-in attendees, we now have the check-in option. Alrighty. So that's event. We actually have 10 minutes, so I will have time to cover quick ticketing. But before we do that, any questions at all? Alrighty, so let's wrap up with a feature called quick ticketing. I mentioned earlier this feature, quick ticketing, which is helpful for basically just selling things at the door. So if you have a front desk and you just want to sell tickets rapidly, quick ticketing works. A couple of caveats. Quick ticketing, to be quick, doesn't care who the attendees are. So it would not be good for a class. It would be good for effectively an anonymous performance where everybody just shows up and you don't care who they were. So what this does is we track the registrant who paid the money. We have to have that. But we don't track the attendees even if you configured a registration form. So first thing we need to do, oh, it already selected the event for us, but we could change the event under change event, and there's some other settings here we can set for tickets and what have you. But we basically say, okay, this is gonna be Terry again. Sorry, Terry, I'm picking on you today. Oh, and I can't spell your name. Terry Bruce is gonna purchase a single child over 5. And she toss in some art supplies. She's gonna pay by credit, cash, check, or be unpaid. If we do credit, then when we proceed, so we can apply discount codes and check them in as we do it, we can go ahead and you either put or use a card on file. By the way, you may be seeing this swipe option. This actually would let you swipe a credit card. It uses a, what is it using? It is a Magtech M130, I think. I have an ID Tech one. If you're interested, contact support. And I think I may have a tutorial that talks about what the swiper is. That may be changing soon. As the laws have been evolving and chip cards coming out, we may have to drop for legal reasons because they're kind of, credit cards kind of pushing, it's not really legal, is it? For support purposes, we may have to maybe switching to chip cards. So keep an eye out for that in the coming months. But I'm gonna go ahead and just process the credit card I have on file, process card. She's all paid out. And we can do the next, and we can print and email tickets and all that. I'm not going to do it. And we can move on to the next person. So I can come up here, and I could then do Bob. Amazing. He's doing a child over 5. He's going to have 2 of them, so I can click a couple times. By the way, this works on tablets, and other touchscreen devices. That's why the buttons are nice and big. And he's going to be unpaid. So that's quick ticketing in a nutshell. Sometimes people use this for kind of a batch entry. So once again, if you have a bunch of tickets you have to just dump into the system, this can be a quicker way to do that. But as mentioned before, you will not know who the attendees are, only the registrant. So the attendees will be listed as guest, even if you have a registration form with required fields. So this can bypass that. Um, that's it. That's all I got. Any questions about anything we covered today? Anything at all?